Man who won Republican primary from jail convicted of voluntary manslaughter of his wife. Not another Republican with a violent crime. What the hell is going on? I just caught the story of a Kentucky candidate that was caught choking some kid out in Walmart. At this point, if you want gangsters, you might as well just start jumping them in behind your state capitol buildings. But the federal government does do a good job in letting local and state level figure out how they want to pick and choose their own officials. Like in Indiana, it's perfectly fine as long as you're only accused of a felony, but if you come back with a conviction or guilty verdict, you're disqualified. An Indiana man who once won a Republican Township Board primary while in jail on accusations he killed his wife was convicted of voluntary manslaughter. Andrew Wilhoite was arrested in connection with the death of his wife, Elizabeth Nikki Wilhoite, in March 2022. The Boone County Sheriff's Office said at the time, while incarcerated in jail, Andrew was one of 3 Republican candidates, all that stiff competition, who advanced in a primary election for the Clinton Township Board. The race only drew 3 candidates, the Associated Press reported. Nikki was found dead in a creek by Indiana State Police after co-workers reported her missing, people previously reported. Here's why I found this story interesting, and I'm not a legal expert, but voluntary manslaughter means there's a special circumstance, meaning you were provoked. It was a crime of passion. There was a split second where you might have lost your cool, you let your anger get the best of you. Okay, but why not call the authorities immediately after you cool down? Why hide the body? That doesn't sound like someone who lost control, who had a lapse in judgment. That sounds like someone who knew exactly what they did and knew that they couldn't afford to get caught for it. During the course of a domestic dispute, then 39-year-old Andrew N. Wilhoite, Elizabeth's husband, had allegedly struck her in the head with a blunt object, causing her to lose consciousness. State police said at the time, "Why didn't you call the ambulance immediately?" He then placed her into a vehicle and drove to a nearby creek where he dumped her body. That does not sound like someone who's not thinking clearly. Andrew was charged with murder. WTHR, the AP, and the Lebanon Reporter all reported, citing authorities, that he admitted to striking Nikki with a flower pot during an argument. My line of thinking is provocation calls for instant gratification. You did whatever you did at the moment. You flew off the handle. At the moment, you cracked this woman upside the head with a flower pot, but taking her body all the way out to a creek and hiding it means you're thinking about something way down the line. You're not thinking about what happened right now. WTHR reported at the time of her death, Nikki had just completed chemotherapy treatments for cancer and had filed for separation from Andrew. She was already fighting for her life. Jesus Christ. Andrew's trial began in April. The Lebanon Reporter reported that the jury was given the option to consider both murder and voluntary manslaughter. Andrew could face up to 30 years in prison following his conviction. I read this story earlier this afternoon and it sounded like murder to me then, and I'm reading it again this evening and it still sounds like murder. But what are your opinions? What are your comments on this? Do you think he should have got something a little bit stronger than voluntary manslaughter?